Have you ever looked at a swarm of ants or maybe a school of fish and just wondered, how on earth does a scientist study just one of them? For decades, trying to track individual animals in a group has been this monumental challenge, a huge bottleneck that's really held back our understanding of the natural world. Well, that is all starting to change, and fast.
No, seriously, just take a second and think about that. How would you keep track of 80 fruit flies that are all basically identical, zipping around, disappearing behind each other, without completely losing your mind? It sounds impossible, right? But it turns out that solving this exact kind of problem is the key to unlocking a whole new level of scientific discovery.
So today, we're going to break down how a brand new AI tool is making the impossible, well, pretty possible. We'll start with the old problem, look at the new solution called Annolid, unpack the AI magic that makes it work, see how it holds up under pressure, and then talk about what this all means for the future of science.
All right, so to really get why this new tech is such a big deal, you first have to understand the absolute nightmare that researchers have been living with for years. The old way of doing this was brutal. Just picture a scientist watching a video and having to manually draw a little box around every single animal in every single frame of that video. A 10-minute video can have over 15,000 frames. It would take days of work, it was full of human error, and the second two mice crossed paths, you could easily lose track of which was which. This wasn't just a hurdle, it was a brick wall for research.
But now, enter Annolid. This is a new tool that completely changes the game. It takes that process that used to take days of tedious manual work and shrinks it down to just a few minutes. And the difference is it's night and day. Instead of manually drawing on thousands of frames, you just type one word, like mouse. Instead of spending your whole week labeling data, Annolid annotates the first frame for you automatically. And here's the kicker. You don't need to train a custom AI model for every single project. The system just works, right out of the box, and it's amazing at keeping track of who is who, even when they hide behind each other.
So you're probably asking, how does it do that? What's the secret sauce behind this incredible speed-up? Well, it all comes down to a brilliant team-up of 3 different really powerful AI models, all working together perfectly.
Think of it like an expert crew. First up, you've got the Finder. It's an AI that you give a text prompt to, like ant, and poof, it finds every ant in the image. Then the Outliner jumps in. This AI draws a perfect, pixel-precise digital mask around every single ant that was just found. And finally, you have the Follower. It takes those initial masks and just follows them flawlessly through the entire rest of the video. Find it, outline it, track it. That's the whole playbook. Now, the real magic here has a name. It's called zero-shot learning. See, Annolid isn't learning what a mouse is from your video. It's already seen millions of pictures of mice from the massive data sets it was trained on. So it's leveraging all that pre-existing knowledge. That's why you can just type a word and it instantly knows what you're talking about without you having to teach it a thing.
Okay, this all sounds amazing on paper, right? But what happens when the rubber meets the road? How does it actually hold up in the real world? Well, researchers put Annolido through a whole series of grueling tests to find out.
And the first results were, frankly, stunning. In a bunch of different tests with different animals, the system was perfect. Literally perfect. It automatically identified the animals in the very first frame and then tracked them through the entire video without a single mistake. Let's look at the actual data, because it's wild. They took a 10-minute video of 4 mice running around that's over 15,000 frames. The number of times a human had to step in and fix an error? 0. A big fat 0. Then they tried an even more chaotic scene. 14 ants for almost 36,000 frames. The result? A perfect score. 0 corrections needed. The researchers themselves summed it up perfectly in their paper. They said that just one automatically generated frame was enough to process the entire video with no errors. Think about that. That is just a ridiculously huge achievement. So, okay, it's flawless with mice and ants. But let's be real, the animal kingdom gets a lot messier than that, right? What happens when you throw some really tough cases at it? Animals that move fast and erratically. So they tried it with zebrafish. These guys dart all over the place with these fast, sudden turns. And yeah, in this case, the AI did need a little bit of help. 24 manual corrections over a 10-minute video. Now, is that perfect? No. But is it still absolutely incredible? You bet. That's 24 clicks instead of tens of thousands.
But then came the final boss, tracking 80, that's 80, fruit flies. This is pure chaos, a swirling cloud of tiny, identical dots. So how many corrections were needed there? 292. This is where you really see the system being pushed to its absolute limit.
But here's the brilliant part. This isn't a failure. It's actually a feature. It's called a human-in-the-loop system. The AI is smart enough to know when it's confused. So instead of just guessing and messing up all the data, it basically raises its hand and says, "Hey, human, could you help me for just a sec?" The AI does 99% of the grunt work, and the human just steps in to make the tough calls. It's the perfect partnership. So let's zoom out for a minute. We've seen how it works, we've seen the test results, but so what? Why does a tool like this actually matter for science? Why is it such a big deal?
Well, for starters, it's giving scientists back their most valuable resource, their time. We're talking about saving thousands of hours of mind-numbing manual labor. When you do that, you're not just making old experiments faster, you're making brand new experiments possible. Suddenly, studying the social lives of 80 fruit flies at once isn't some crazy idea. This is going to accelerate discovery in biology and neuroscience, you name it. And maybe best of all, because it's built on open source models, it's not just for big, fancy labs with huge budgets. It's making this kind of powerful research accessible to everyone.
And that really brings us to the most exciting thought of all. For so long, the biggest question in this field has been, how can we possibly track all these animals? That question is basically solved now. The new question is, what are we going to find? If we can watch every bee in a hive, every bird in a flock, what new, undiscovered secrets about their world, and maybe even our own, are we finally about to uncover?